The fairy lights on my parents' tree were twinkling, a warm, nostalgic glow, but the chill in the air had nothing to do with the December weather. "She's still between opportunities," my mother announced to our relatives. Her voice carried, intentionally. She wanted the whole room to hear. A ripple of soft, polite laughter followed, but it landed like a ton of bricks on my chest. My brother Leo smirked at me from behind his glass of Merlot. My father just let out a heavy sigh, his attention fixed on his dinner plate. I just sat there, forcing a smile so tight my cheeks ached. My hands were clutched around the small velvet-wrapped box in my lap. It held a gift for them, purchased with a fraction of the profits from a company they had no idea I owned. In their eyes, I was adrift. I was a disappointment. "We just want you to be practical, Ava," my mother added, picking up the remote to raise the TV's volume. Just then, the jingle for a car commercial ended. A bright red banner sliced across the bottom of the news channel. Breaking news. The identity of Neurogenic Systems founder has been revealed. The chatter in the room died instantly. The news anchor's voice filled the void. After months of intense speculation, the tech industry finally has a name for its newest visionary. My mother shot to her feet. The tray of Christmas sugar cookies she was holding slipped, crashing onto the hardwood floor. But no one so much as glanced at the mess. Every eye was glued to the television, and then every eye was glued to me. Before we get into the details, do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from today. To make sense of why I said nothing as that news story unfolded, you need to understand the last 3 years. You need to understand the Sunday night interrogations. Every Sunday, 7 p.m. on the dot, my phone would ring. It was always my mother. And every single Sunday, the script was identical. "Hello, Ava," she would begin. Her voice would carry that specific inflection, the one reserved for me. The pity-laced tone. "How are you managing?" "I'm good, Mom. I'm really busy," I would reply. "Busy how?" She would press. "Did you manage to send out any applications this week?" "I am working, Mom. I've told you. I'm building something." "Oh, Ava." A sigh. One of those long, theatrical sighs that conveyed a world of disappointment. "Honey, we're just concerned about you. Leo just put a down payment on a lake house. He's doing so well. We just want to see you find some stability." They never actually listened. The sound waves hit their ears, but the message never landed. To them, building a company was code for unemployed and wasting time online. To them, my decision to walk away from a cushy job at Oracle 3 years prior was the beginning of a long, slow spiral. They didn't see it as a calculated risk. They saw it as a capitulation to failure. That exact dynamic was practically a guest at the dinner party when I stepped into their house on Christmas Eve. The air was thick with the scent of pine and roasted turkey, the signature fragrance of my childhood holidays. Normally, it was a smell that brought comfort. That night, it just made my stomach clench. I wiped my boots on the welcome mat, took a deep, steadying breath, and coached myself to stay composed. I reminded myself that tonight was temporary, because tomorrow, the narrative they'd written for me would be obsolete. "Ava, you made it," my father said. He was standing near the hearth, swirling a glass of Cabernet. He gave me a quick once-over, his eyes not meeting mine, but instead appraising my coat. It was an old, frayed thing. I had worn it intentionally. My brand-new designer trench was folded neatly in the back of my car, but I chose the worn-out charcoal-colored wool. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe a part of me wanted to live up to the character they expected me to play. "Hi, Dad," I said, leaning in to kiss his cheek. He smelled of expensive cologne and quiet disapproval. "Is the old Toyota holding up?" he asked. That thing must have a lot of miles on it by now. It runs fine, I replied. Well, he said, turning his attention back to the crackling fire, I suppose it gets you where you need to go. That's what counts when you're in a transitional period. In a transitional period. That was their term of choice. They couldn't bring themselves to say jobless. It was too crass. So I was perpetually in transition. I moved into the kitchen where my mother was meticulously arranging cheese and crackers on a pewter platter. My sister-in-law, Sophie, was at her side, helping. Sophie was flawless. Her blonde hair was styled in a way that defied gravity. She was poured into a silk dress that likely cost more than my first apartment's security deposit. She was married to my brother, Leo. Leo was an orthodontist. In our family, being an orthodontist was practically royalty. Hi, Mom. Hi, Sophie, I said. My mother glanced up, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Ava, she said, setting down a wedge of brie. You look exhausted, sweetie. Are you eating properly? I eat just fine, Mom. You're so thin, Sophie chimed in. It wasn't meant as a compliment. Stress can do that. I remember when Leo was studying for his boards. He dropped 10 pounds. But of course, that was for his career. The unspoken part hung in the air. Leo's stress was productive. Mine was the byproduct of a life in disarray. I brought some wine, I announced, placing a bottle on the granite countertop. It was a rare vintage, a bottle that had set me back over $2,000. I'd bought it for this moment, to celebrate. My mother barely gave it a look. The label meant nothing to her. It was just another bottle. That's lovely, dear, she said. Just put it over there with the others. We'll probably open the bottle Leo brought first. It's a nice red from the supermarket. I almost burst out laughing. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep it in. I obediently placed my $2,000 bottle next to a $12 generic red. So, Sophie said, propping herself against the counter, any prospects on the job front? I have a job, Sophie. I mean a real job, she clarified, popping a grape into her mouth. Something with a 401k. Leo was just saying he might need someone to cover the front desk at his practice soon. Just part-time answering phones. It's not glamorous, but a paycheck's a paycheck. My chest tightened. It was a real physical ache, like a dull pressure against my breastbone. I don't need a front desk job, I said, my voice barely a whisper. There's no shame in it, Ava, my mother interjected sharply. She stopped her cracker arranging and fixed me with a hard stare. Leo is trying to be generous. He wants to help. You need to swallow your pride. Pride won't cover your bills. My bills are covered, Mom. With what? She demanded. Your savings? That money from Oracle can't last forever. It's been 3 years. You need to get serious about your life. I looked at her, at the worry lines etched around her eyes. I did love her, I truly did. But she made it impossibly difficult. She needed me to be the damsel in distress. If I was the victim, she could be the hero. If I was falling apart, she could feel whole. I am serious, I said. No, you're not, she retorted. You're living in some kind of dream world. You sit in that tiny apartment on your laptop and call yourself an entrepreneur. But real entrepreneurs have a product, Ava. Real entrepreneurs have an income. You're just drifting. Just then, the front door burst open. A booming voice echoed through the hall. Merry Christmas, everyone. It was Leo, the golden child himself. He swaggered into the kitchen moments later, decked out in a cashmere V-neck. He radiated success. He radiated happiness. He radiated the unshakable confidence of a man who had never faced a single moment of true self-doubt in his life. He gave Mom a hug, planted a kiss on Sophie's cheek, and then his eyes landed on me. He offered a sad, sympathetic smile. Hey sis, he said, patting my shoulder in that condescending way of his. Good to see you've emerged from the bunker. Hi, Leo. Mom mentioned you're still on the hunt, he said, not bothering to wait for a reply as he headed for the fridge to grab a beer. Look, I'm serious about the front desk gig. Our receptionist is going on maternity leave in March. It's $19 an hour. The offer's on the table. 19 an hour, I repeated blankly. It's better than nothing, he said with a shrug, taking a swig of his beer. Beggars can't be choosers, Ava. I just stood there in the heart of my mother's kitchen, surrounded by my family. They were talking about me like I was an inanimate object, a problem that needed a solution, a leaky faucet, a stain on the rug. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them everything, right then and there. I wanted to pull up my company's valuation on my phone and shove it in their faces. But I held back, because it wouldn't work. Not yet. They had to hear it from an impartial source. If I told them, they'd dismiss it as another one of my fantasies. They'd think I'd lost my mind. So instead, I picked up the cheese platter. I'll take these into the living room, I said, my voice calm. I walked out, leaving them to their discussion of my many shortcomings. I entered the living room and placed the platter on the coffee table. I stared at the Christmas tree, adorned with ornaments we'd made as children. I found one of mine, a lopsided star crafted from popsicle sticks and too much glitter, hanging near the bottom, mostly obscured by a branch. And there was Leo's ornament, a perfectly painted ceramic snowman from a pottery class, hanging proudly near the very top, catching the light. It was a perfect metaphor for our lives. I sank into the sofa. I felt insignificant. I felt invisible. But underneath my old coat, my heart was pounding a frantic rhythm. Because I knew a secret they didn't. I knew the entire script was about to be rewritten. I just had to get through dinner. They thought I was unemployed. They imagined me holed up in my apartment in pajamas, binge-watching shows and half-heartedly sending resumes into the digital abyss. They had no clue what the last 3 years had actually entailed. While my mother was fretting about my gap year, I was subsisting on 4 hours of sleep a night. While Leo was straightening teeth, I was building a software architecture capable of processing 5 petabytes of neurological data in near real time. It all began the day I quit Oracle. My parents staged an intervention. They sat me down at the kitchen table like a wayward teen. "You have a retirement plan," my father had said, his face ashen. "You have benefits. You are at one of the top tech companies on the planet. Why would you throw that away?" "Because I have an idea," I told them. "A massive idea." "Ideas are a luxury for people who can afford them," my mother had snapped. So, I stopped talking about it. I went completely underground. I found a tiny studio in a rough part of Chicago. I sold my nice car. I stopped buying anything that wasn't essential. I lived on ramen and cheap coffee. Every penny I had went towards server costs. I wasn't drifting. I was in a dead sprint. I met Priya Sharma at a coding conference. She was a brilliant data scientist who just left her post at a prestigious research university. We connected immediately. We saw the same future. We were convinced that machine learning could predict neurological events in high-risk patients' hours, even days, before the monitors registered a problem. We believed we could prevent catastrophic outcomes. We called the company Neurogenic Systems. For the first year, it was just the two of us. We turned my studio into our command center. Wires snaked across the floor. The apartment was constantly hot from the overworked computers. We coded until our vision blurred. We pitched our idea to venture capitalists who practically laughed us out of the room. "2 young women?" One investor scoffed. "In the neurotech space, it's too much of a gamble." My parents would call during those dark days. How's the job search? They'd ask. It's going okay, I'd lie. I couldn't tell them I'd just been shot down by the 10th venture capital firm that month. They would have begged me to give up. They would have told me I was destroying my life. I didn't need their anxiety piled on top of my own. But then, the tide turned. It happened about 18 months ago. We secured our first pilot program with a small hospital system in Colorado. It worked. In the first month alone, Neurogenics flagged 7 potential stroke events with enough advance warning for doctors to intervene. 7 people who might have suffered irreparable damage were saved. I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment with Priya, looking at the data. We just cried. We held each other and cried. That was the moment everything changed. After that, the investors stopped laughing. They started calling us. We raised $6 million in our seed round, then another $25 million in Series A. My life fractured into 2 separate realities. In one, I was Ava Sterling, CEO. I had a team of over 90 employees. I had a corner office overlooking the city. I was flying to Switzerland to speak at a global health summit. I was fending off acquisition feelers from giants like Google and Apple. My company was being written up in major tech journals. But in my other life, the one that existed inside my parents' house, I was still Ava the failure. I tried to bridge the gap once. About a year ago, I went home for Thanksgiving. We had just finalized a major partnership. I was bursting with pride. Mom, Dad, I said over dinner, I'm doing some consulting. It's going really well. I have a few major clients. Consulting, my father said, making a face like he'd tasted spoiled milk. That's what people call it when they can't find a full-time position. It's freelance work, Ava. There's no security in that. It's not freelance work, I tried to explain. It's a business. Does it have a pension? My mother asked. Does it have health insurance? I can buy my own insurance, Mom. Don't get sarcastic, she said. We just want you to be secure. I shut down. I realized right then that they didn't want the truth. They had their story. I was the chaotic, artistic one. Leo was the stable, successful one. If I succeeded, it would break the family narrative. If I succeeded, it meant they were wrong about me, about everything, and my parents could not stand being wrong. So I let them have their story. I let them buy my dinner when we went out. I let them slide me $40 for gas. I absorbed the verbal slights. But tonight was different. Tonight, the secret had grown too large to contain. 3 days ago, Neurogenics had announced its partnership with the National Institutes of Health. Our system was set to become the new national standard for predictive neurological monitoring in ERS. The company's valuation had soared to $1.6 billion. The media embargo on my identity was lifting tonight. A major news network was running a special report on the future of healthcare. They had interviewed me last week. They had filmed at the office. They had the whole story. I glanced at my watch. It was 7:15 p.m. The special was scheduled for 7:30. We were at the dining table now. My mother had served the turkey. My father was carving. White or dark meat, Ava? Dad asked. Dark, please. Of course, Leo chuckled. The cheaper cut. He laughed at his own joke. I just stared at him, at his perfectly white teeth, at his designer watch. He thought he was on top of the world. He pulled in $400,000 a year and thought that was the summit. I had made more than that in the time it took us to eat the appetizers. So, my mother said, passing the potatoes. Let's talk about the new year. A fresh start, right, Ava? Right, I said. I was thinking, she went on, maybe you could move back home for a little while, save up on rent. It would give you a chance to really focus on your job search. Your old room is just being used for storage. We could clear it out. I don't need to move home, Mom. Why must you be so difficult? She asked, her voice rising. "We are throwing you a lifeline. Why won't you grab it?" "Because I'm not drowning," I said. It came out sharper than I'd intended. A hush fell over the table. Everyone froze. "There's no need to raise your voice," my father said sternly. "Your mother is just trying to help." "I know," I said, lowering my tone. "I know. But you always assume I'm failing. You assume I'm doing nothing. Because you have nothing to show for it." Leo interjected, putting his fork down. "Ava, it's been 3 years. Name one tangible thing you've accomplished." I looked at him, then at the others. I couldn't. "Name one thing," he pressed. "See," Leo scoffed. "She's living in a fantasy." "Leo," my mother warned. She turned to me. "Ava, we love you, but we can't keep enabling this. We got you something." She reached under the table and produced a wrapped box. She pushed it across the table toward me. "Open it," she said. I opened the box. Inside was a black leather portfolio, the kind you'd carry to an interview. Tucked inside was a check. I pulled it out. It was for $5,000. "That's to help you get back on your feet," my father said. "Use it for a deposit on a new place, get a decent haircut, buy a professional suit for your interviews. And," my mother added, "use the portfolio. It makes you look serious." I stared at the check. $5,000. To them, it was a significant sum, a sacrifice. I knew that, but it was also a profound insult. It was a payment for my surrender. They were buying my consent to be their failure. "I can't accept this," I said. "You will accept it," my father stated. "Pride doesn't keep the lights on, Ava. We've discussed this." I placed the check on the table next to the platter of turkey. "I'm fine," I said again. "You are not fine." My mother's hand slammed the table. "You are unemployed. You're nearly 30. You are embarrassing us." And there it was, the raw truth. It wasn't about my well-being. It was about their image. "I'm sorry that I embarrass you," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "But I think you're wrong." "Wrong about what?" Leo sneered. "About everything." I glanced over Leo's shoulder. The large TV in the adjacent living room was still on. The volume was low, but I could see the screen. The commercials were ending. The news network's logo spiraled into view. The bright red breaking news banner flashed across the bottom. "Mom," I said, "turn up the TV." "What?" she asked. "We're in the middle of something, Ava. Don't try to change the subject." "Turn it up," I repeated, "please." Something in my tone made her pause. She stared at me, then at the screen. She grabbed the remote and hit the volume button. The anchor's voice filled the dining room. And in a stunning revelation tonight, the reclusive founder of Neurogenic Systems has finally been identified. My father froze, his carving knife poised above the turkey. Neurogenics, the company behind the revolutionary AI protocols now being adopted by the NIH, is currently valued at over $1.5 billion. Leo swiveled in his chair. Investors have dubbed the founder a prodigy, a hermit, a visionary, and tonight, for the first time, we have a name. I watched my family. They were all staring at the television. The founder and majority shareholder is 28-year-old Ava Sterling of Chicago. A dead silence fell over the room. Then my photo appeared on the screen. It was my professional headshot. I looked strong, poised. Beneath my face, in bold white letters, were the words, Ava Sterling, net worth $1.6 billion. My father's wine glass slipped from his grasp. It shattered on the floor, red wine splashing across the beige carpet like a fresh wound. But no one moved to clean it up. The red wine bled into the carpet, spreading quickly through the fibers, a dark, ugly stain. My father didn't even look down. He didn't seem to be breathing. His mouth was slightly agape, his gaze fixed on the television. "Carol," he whispered. "Carol, look." My mother was already looking. Her hand flew to her mouth, her body trembling. On the screen, the image had switched from my headshot to live footage. It was from the news crew's visit to my office last week. The camera swept across the Neurogenics lobby, a sleek, modern space with glass partitions and polished concrete. Our company logo, a blue sine wave merging with a neural net, was mounted on the wall in brushed chrome. Then the camera focused on me. I was walking down a corridor, dressed in a sharp blazer and dark jeans, talking intently with my head of technology. I looked focused. I looked like I was in command. I pointed to a data display on a wall, and a group of executives in suits nodded in agreement. The voiceover continued. Ava Sterling, a former Oracle software engineer, founded Neurogenics 3 years ago from her studio apartment. Operating in complete secrecy, she developed an algorithm that can predict major neurological events like strokes and seizures up to 12 hours before clinical signs appear. My brother, Leo, shot to his feet. The legs of his chair screeched against the hardwood floor. "Secrecy," he muttered. She was in secret mode. He turned to look at me, his face ashen. The confident smirk was gone, replaced by a look of utter bewilderment. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. Is this real?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Ava, is this some kind of prank? A deep fake?" I didn't reply. I just kept my eyes on the TV. "The impact is already profound," the anchor stated. In pilot programs across Colorado and Texas, Neurogenics has been credited with saving over 4,000 lives in the past 6 months alone. 4,000 lives. I glanced at my mother. I remembered her telling me just 2 months ago that I was squandering my potential. She'd said that if I really wanted to make a difference, I should volunteer at a food bank. She didn't think I was capable of saving anyone, let alone myself. But it is the financial implications that have Wall Street buzzing tonight, the anchor went on. Sterling shrewdly retained an unprecedented 80% ownership stake in her company through multiple funding rounds, a move some called naive, but one which has now made her one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country. 80%, Leo whispered. I could see the gears turning in his head, the mental arithmetic. His eyes widened in shock. My sister-in-law, Sophie, was completely frozen, her fork suspended halfway to her lips. A piece of turkey fell from it, landing on her expensive silk dress. She didn't even notice. "Ava," my mother said, her voice tiny and fragile like a child's. Why didn't you tell us?" "I tried," I said, my voice steady and calm. "I didn't raise it. I told you I was working. I told you I had a company. But we thought it was a hobby," she stammered. "We thought it was just a little website or something." "I know what you thought," I said. On the screen, my interview began. I was sitting in a chair across from the reporter. "Why all the secrecy?" the on-screen reporter asked me. The TV version of me offered a small, sad smile. "When you're building something fragile," TV Ava explained, "you have to shield it. You can't allow doubt to creep in, not from investors and not from the people closest to you. Sometimes you have to build in the dark before you can shine in the light." My father slowly turned his head away from the screen. He looked at me. Then his eyes drifted to the table, to the check. The $5,000 check he had given me to get back on my feet. It sat there, a pathetic little rectangle of paper between the green bean casserole and the gravy boat. The anchor came back on, holding a new piece of paper. "We have just received confirmation from market analysts ahead of the IPO filing," he announced. Ava Sterling's personal net worth is conservatively estimated at $1.6 billion. The air seemed to get sucked out of the room. $1.6 billion. The number just hung there, obscene and incomprehensible. It was bigger than their house, bigger than Leo's practice, bigger than their entire world. My mother made a noise, a strangled mix of a gasp and a sob. She clutched the edge of the dining table as if to steady herself. "That's not possible," she whispered. "That has to be a mistake." "It's not a mistake, Mom," I said. I picked up my water glass and took a sip. My hand was perfectly steady. For 3 years, I had been the family's black sheep. I was the cautionary tale whispered to cousins. When neighbors asked about me, my parents would evade the question, saying I was finding myself. They were ashamed of me. And now, at this very moment, the world was putting me on a pedestal. I looked at the Christmas tree, its lights blurring slightly. I wasn't crying, but my eyes felt hot. I wasn't sad. I was relieved. The immense weight I had been carrying for years, the weight of their disappointment, had just vanished. It had dematerialized the second that number appeared on the screen. I was no longer the daughter who needed saving. I was the one who owned the bank. Leo was the first to break from the spell. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. It's everywhere," he said, his voice breathless. "Forbes just tweeted about it. Bloomberg has a feature. The Unicorn of Chicago. Oh my God, Ava." He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a strange, new kind of respect. He was looking at me like he'd never truly seen me before. And in a way, he hadn't. He had only ever seen his screw-up little sister. "You turned down Google?" he asked, reading from his phone. "It says here you rejected a $900 million buyout from Google last year. Is that true?" "Yes," I said. "Why?" he practically shouted. $900 million. Are you out of your mind?" "They wanted to dissolve our ethics committee," I said simply. "They wanted to monetize the patient data for advertising." I said no. "You said no to almost $1 billion for ethics?" Leo sank back into his chair, looking like he'd been punched. For Leo, money was the ultimate measure of success. The concept of walking away from that kind of fortune was utterly alien to him. "It worked out," I said. "We're worth more now. And we own our mission." My mother was still staring at the TV, even though the segment had ended and a commercial was playing. She turned to face me, her face pale. "We gave you a check," she said, her voice hollow. She looked at the portfolio on the table, the $5,000 check now peeking out from under it. "We gave you a check for your rent," she repeated, "and you have billions." "I appreciate the thought, Mom," I said. "I know you were trying to help." "Help?" My father let out a short, harsh laugh. He scrubbed his face with his hands. "Help? We insulted you. That's what we did. We sat here and offered you a job as a receptionist." He shot a look at Leo. "A receptionist," Dad said again. "She's running $1 billion company, and we told her to answer phones for $19 an hour." "I didn't know," Leo said defensively. "How was I supposed to know? She dresses like she's broke. Look at that coat. Look at her car." "I like my car," I said. "It's a Toyota with a dented fender," Leo yelled. "Billionaires don't drive dented Toyotas, Ava. Why didn't you say anything? Why did you let us make complete fools of ourselves?" "I didn't make you do anything," I said, a spark of anger finally igniting inside me. "I didn't force you to treat me like a charity case. I didn't force you to assume I was incompetent. You did that all by yourselves." "We didn't think you were incompetent," my mother protested, tears beginning to stream down her face. "We just thought you were lost." "No, Mom," I said. "You thought I was less than. You thought Leo was the standard and I was the deviation. It made you feel comfortable. It made the world make sense. That is a horrible thing to say, she cried. Is it? I challenged. Think about tonight. Think about 20 minutes ago. When I walked in, you commented on my weight, you criticized my coat, you dismissed my life. Did you ask me one single question about what I was working on? Did you show one shred of curiosity? No. You just asked if I had applied for any real jobs. The room fell silent. The truth was a heavy, uninvited guest. I tried to tell you, I continued, a year ago, Thanksgiving. I told you I had clients. I told you things were going well, and Dad told me it was gig work. He said it wasn't a real career. My father looked down at his hands, twisting his wedding band. I remember, he murmured. You didn't want it to be real, I said, because if it was real, you'd have to admit that you don't know me at all. You'd have to admit that I don't need you. Sophie cleared her throat, looking intensely uncomfortable. So, she said, her voice high-pitched and strained, does this mean, are you going to get a new place? Sophie, Leo snapped. What? She retorted. I'm just asking. If she has $1 billion, she's probably not going to stay in that little studio. I looked at Sophie and almost felt pity. Her whole identity was built on status. She married an orthodontist so they could join the right clubs. Now, her entire social framework was collapsing. I bought a place last month, I said. In Denver. I'm moving the headquarters there after the new year. Denver? My mother looked horrified. But that's halfway across the country. It's a better tech hub, I said, and it's far from here. The words landed with a thud. Far from here. My mother began to cry in earnest now, not the polite, silent tears from before, but messy, shoulder-shaking sobs. We lost you, she wept. We didn't even realize we were doing it, but we pushed you away. You didn't lose me, Mom, I said. I'm right here. But this dynamic, this story where I'm the disappointment and you're the saviors, that's over. It's done. My phone began to vibrate in my coat pocket. Then it vibrated again and again, a continuous buzzing. I pulled it out. The screen was a strobe of notifications, texts from friends I hadn't spoken to in years, emails from venture capitalists, a flood of connection requests. The world had found me. I need to take this, I said. It's my COO. We need to draft a statement for the Asian markets. I stood up. Sit down, Ava, my father said, his voice pleading. Please, let's just eat. Let's talk. I can't, I said. I have a company to run. I walked toward the hallway. Ava, Leo called out. Wait, that Google thing. Did you really turn it down, or was that just for the cameras? I stopped and looked back at him. He was still trying to find a loophole, a flaw in the story. It's real, Leo, I said. Not everything is about the money. I walked into the hall and grabbed my old gray wool coat. I put it on. It felt like a suit of armor. I could hear them whispering in the dining room. What do we do? My mother was asking. Richard, what do we do now? We apologize, my father said. We beg her to forgive us. She won't, Leo said. Did you see her eyes? She's already gone. I buttoned my coat and caught my reflection in the hall mirror. I didn't look tired or thin anymore. I looked like myself. I looked like Ava Sterling. I opened the front door. The blast of cold winter air felt clean, cleansing. Before I left, I glanced back at the dining room one last time. The check was still on the table. The food was getting cold. The wine stain was spreading on the carpet. It was the aftermath of a disaster, but for me, it was the beginning of my liberation. I stepped out onto the porch, and that's when I saw the flashes, not from Christmas decorations, from cameras. I quickly stepped back inside and slammed the door shut, my heart hammering. What is it? My father asked, standing in the hallway looking utterly bewildered. Who's out there? Reporters, I said, locking the deadbolt. There are news vans, at least 3 of them, and photographers. Reporters? My mother's voice shot up an octave. Here? At our house? They found the address, I said. It doesn't take long. The story broke 30 minutes ago. That's more than enough time. I went to the living room window and peered through a gap in the blinds. The quiet cul-de-sac of my childhood was being transformed into a media circus. A satellite van was parked on the lawn. People with large cameras were jogging up our driveway. Camera flashes erupted like silent lightning, illuminating the falling snow. "They can't be here," my mother said, rushing to the window. She gasped and yanked the curtain shut. "Oh my God, Richard, the neighbors are all watching." My father hadn't moved. He was just staring at me. "You really did it," he said softly. "It wasn't just a project. It wasn't a hobby." "No, Dad," I said, "it wasn't. We were trapped. I couldn't leave, not with that mob outside. I had to call my security detail to come and extract me. That meant I was stuck in this house, this pressure cooker, for at least another hour." I walked back into the living room. On the TV, the news had moved into the analysis phase. A panel of experts was dissecting neurogenics. What Ava Sterling has done, a woman in a sharp red blazer was saying, is completely bypassed the traditional gatekeepers of medical technology. She didn't ask for permission. She just built something better. Leo was now slumped on the sofa, his head in his hands. "I told my friends you were depressed," he mumbled. The room fell silent, the sound from the TV fading into the background. "What did you just say?" I asked. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. The confident orthodontist mask had crumbled, revealing the younger, insecure brother underneath. "Last week," he said, "at the country club, Mark's son asked about you. He asked what you were doing, and I told him you were struggling with depression, that you were barely leaving your apartment." A cold dread washed over me. "Why on earth would you say that?" "Because it made sense," he yelled, jumping up to pace the room. "You were thin, you were pale, you never had any money, you wore old clothes. What else was I supposed to think? I was trying to protect you." "You weren't protecting me," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You were protecting yourself. You were embarrassed to have a sister you thought was a failure, so you turned me into a patient. You made me sick so you wouldn't have to be ashamed. I thought I was helping." "No, Leo," I said. "You were embarrassed. There's a big difference." My mother drifted into the room. She looked at the leather portfolio on the coffee table, the one with the check. She picked it up, her hands trembling so badly the check fluttered out and landed on the floor. "I told Aunt Sarah," she began, her voice a faint whisper. I turned to face her. "What did you say, Mom?" She wouldn't meet my gaze. She stared at the wall, at the gallery of family photos. Pictures of Leo's graduation, Leo's wedding. There was only one small photo of me, a high school portrait, before I became difficult. "Aunt Sarah asked about you at Thanksgiving," my mother said, her voice shaking. "She asked why you hadn't settled down yet. I told her you were going through a phase, that you were finding yourself, like one of those kids who backpacks through Asia. I told her you'd grow out of it." "A phase," I repeated, the word tasting like ash. "I didn't want them to judge you," she cried. "I didn't want them to think you were incompetent, so you infantilized me instead," I said. "You dismissed 3 years of my life, my work, my sleepless nights, my sacrifice. You reduced it all to a phase." "We didn't know," she screamed. "You didn't ask," I screamed back, the first time I had truly raised my voice. The sound was explosive in the tense room. "I tried to show you the code once," I said, my voice thick with old anger. "Do you remember? 2 years ago at Christmas. I brought my laptop. I wanted to show you the predictive model. I was so proud. I said, 'Dad, look at this.' And what did you say?" My father closed his eyes. He remembered. I could see it on his face. I said, "No screens at the table," he murmured. "Yes," I said. "You said, 'Put that toy away, Ava.' This is family time." "You called my life's work a toy? I thought you were playing a game," he said, his voice full of regret. I don't know what I thought. You thought I was incapable," I stated. "That's the truth. You can wrap it in concern, you can call it love. But at the core of it, you looked at me, and you saw a child who needed to be fixed. You saw a problem." I walked to the window again. The lights outside were even brighter, more vans. I saw a police car arriving to manage the crowd. "I'm not a problem, Dad," I said, watching the chaos unfold. "I'm a solution. The rest of the world gets that now. Why couldn't you?" My phone buzzed. A text from Priya. "Security is 20 out. Hang tight. Extraction team is coming to the back. Don't go outside." 20 minutes, I announced to the room. "My team will be here in 20 minutes. Then I'll be out of your hair." "Don't say that," my mother said, collapsing into an armchair and burying her face in her hands. "Don't talk like that. You're our daughter." "Am I?" I asked. "Because for the last 3 years I felt more like a problem you couldn't solve." I looked at the dining table, at the cold, congealing food, the perfect family Christmas, shattered. We were just sitting in the wreckage. "I need a drink," Leo said. He walked to the counter and picked up the expensive bottle of wine I had brought, the one they'd ignored. He frowned at the label. He pulled out his phone, snapped a picture of it, and did a quick search. I watched his face drain of color. "My God," he whispered, "this bottle is $3,000. He looked at me, horrified. "You brought a $3,000 bottle of wine, and we told you to open the grocery store stuff." "It's a good year," I said dryly. He placed the bottle down with exaggerated care, as if it were a bomb. "We really don't know you at all, do we?" he said. "No," I replied. "You knew the version of me that you needed to exist, and that version is gone." The next 10 minutes were excruciating. We sat in the living room in near silence. The only sounds, the muffled shouts of the press outside and the drone of the television. CNN was now featuring a doctor from a major clinic. "This software is nothing short of a miracle," the doctor was saying. "We had a patient just last week, young mother. Her vitals were stable. Standard monitoring showed nothing amiss. But neurogenics flagged a high-risk anomaly. We intervened and found a developing aneurysm. If we had waited for symptoms, she wouldn't have made it. Ava Sterling saved her life." My mother watched, tears silently carving paths through her makeup. She stood up and walked to the window, leaning her forehead against the cold glass. "I saved a life once," she said softly. "Do you remember? When you were 7, you fell in the community pool." "I remember," I said. "I pulled you out," she continued. "I gave you CPR. I felt so essential that day, like I had a purpose. My job was to keep you safe." She turned around, her eyes full of a deep sadness. I think I never stopped trying to pull you out of that pool," she said. "Even when you were swimming on your own, even when you were a stronger swimmer than I ever was. I kept seeing the drowning girl. It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me." "I know, Mom," I said. "But in the process, you were holding my head under the water. You were trying to save me from a danger that didn't exist. And in doing so, you became the danger. You made me doubt myself. Do you have any idea how hard it is to build a billion-dollar company when your own mother tells you to quit every single Sunday?" "I was scared," she whispered. "I was terrified you would fail and get hurt." "The world is a harsh place, Ava. The world is harsh," I agreed. "But you made it harsher. You were supposed to be my safe harbor. Instead, you were part of the storm." My father cleared his throat. He sat in his big leather armchair, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. He had always been the patriarch, the man with all the answers. Now he just looked like an old man who had lost his way. "We were wrong," he said, his voice rough. "I see that now. Wrong about the work, wrong about the money. We were wrong about you." "Thank you," I said. "But being wrong isn't the real issue, Dad. It's the disrespect." "Disrespect?" He looked genuinely wounded. "We never disrespected you. We fed you, we offered you money, we invited you home for every holiday. That's not respect, Dad. That's charity," I said, stepping into the center of the room. I wanted this to land. "Respect is listening," I said, my voice firm. "Respect is asking questions. Respect is giving me the benefit of the doubt and assuming I am a competent adult. You never did that. You started from a place of assuming I was incompetent." I pointed at Leo. "You respect him," I said. "When Leo talks about his practice, you listen. You ask about his patients. You brag about him. But when I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. You respected his degree. You respected his income. You didn't respect me because I didn't fit into your neat little box of what success looks like." Leo looked down at the floor. "You're right," he said quietly. "And here's the worst part," I continued. "If I had walked in here tonight and announced I'd gotten a mid-level management job at an insurance firm for $80,000 a year, you would have celebrated. You would have popped champagne. You would have said, 'Finally, Ava's okay.' Yes," my mother admitted, "we would have. But I did something 1,000 times bigger," I said, "and I had to hide it from you. I had to hide my own success because I knew you wouldn't believe it. I knew you'd tear it down. I knew you'd find a way to make it small." "We wouldn't have," my father started, but his voice trailed off. He knew it was a lie. "You would have," I said. "If I told you I had investors, you would have said they were con artists. If I told you the valuation, you would have said it was imaginary money. You would have looked for a hole in the boat because you needed the boat to sink." "Why?" my mother asked, her voice cracking. "Why would we want you to sink?" "Because if I sink, you get to be the parents," I said. "If I sink, I need you. If I fly, I don't." The brutal truth settled over the room. They were addicted to my dependence. They had needed my perceived failure to feel secure in their own lives. My father took a deep breath and stood up. He walked over and stood directly in front of me, looking me in the eye. "You don't need us," he said. It wasn't a question. "No," I said, "I don't. I haven't for a long time. I paid my own way. I built my own world. I solved my own problems." "Then why did you come here tonight?" he asked. "Why come to Christmas dinner if you don't need us? Why bring the expensive wine? Why sit there and let us insult you?" "Because I wanted you," I said, my voice finally breaking. "I don't need you, Dad, but I wanted you. I wanted my family. I wanted to share this with you. I wanted you to be proud of me. Not because I'm a billionaire, but because I worked hard. Because I created something that matters." I wiped a tear from my eye. "I just wanted you to see me," I whispered. "Just me. Not Ava the screw-up, not Ava the charity project, just Ava." My father's eyes filled with tears. He reached out and took my hand. "I see you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I see you now, Ava." It was the first time in years he had looked at me with anything resembling pride, but it was mixed with a profound sadness. He realized he was seeing me for the first time, just as I was leaving. "I am so sorry," he said. "So sorry we made you feel invisible." "I wasn't invisible," I said. "I was just hiding in plain sight." My phone buzzed again. Text: "Extraction team at back gate, black SUV, 2 minutes." "My ride is here," I announced. The mood in the room shifted from heavy emotion to sudden panic. "You're leaving?" my mother asked. "Now?" "I have to," I said. "The press is only going to get crazier. If I stay, they'll be on your lawn all night. It's better for everyone if I go. But dinner, she said weakly. We haven't had the pie. I almost smiled. Even now, she was worried about the pie. It was so absurdly, heartbreakingly normal. I can't stay for pie, Mom. I gently pulled my hand from my father's and buttoned my coat. What do we do now? Leo asked. Do we talk to them? You can tell them whatever you want, I said. The truth is out. You don't have to lie anymore, Leo. You don't have to say I'm depressed. You can just say I'm busy. He nodded slowly. Yeah, busy. I looked at them one last time. They felt like strangers. My family, but from a life I had already outgrown. Goodbye, I said. Ava, my mother started, taking a step toward me. Will we see you again? I don't know, I said honestly. I need some time. I have a lot of work to do, and you all have a lot of thinking to do. We'll earn it back, she said, her voice suddenly fierce. I promise you, we will earn back your respect. Start by listening, I said. I turned and walked toward the kitchen. The back door was my escape route, just like it was when I was a teenager sneaking out. Now it was my escape route to a billion-dollar life. I passed the counter where the $2,000 wine sat next to the $12 bottle. I left it there. I opened the back door. The cold air rushed in. A black SUV was idling in the alley, lights off. A man in a dark suit opened the rear door for me. I stepped out of my parents' house and out of the role they had cast for me. I climbed into the car and did not look back.